Greetings everyone and welcome back to a new video. Now today, again, want to talk about articles, want to talk about news. You know how it goes. We read the article, I try to talk and give my thoughts about it. Let's just get to it. Now, I actually missed out on this from yesterday because I was literally going to bed as these news came up and I just didn't have the energy anymore to talk about it. But the Acolyte has reportedly, but I'm going to assume it's pretty much set in stone, which has been cancelled ahead of season 2. Which is no great shock, okay. It was one of the most controversial Star Wars projects of all time, which is certainly saying something, and now there will be nothing more to debate. It seems Deadline's reporting that the Acolyte has been cancelled and will not see a second season, something that's been hazy since the series ended. I'd argue most series, you never know if there's a second season coming, honestly. Either if it's well received or not. Sometimes a show can just end like that. But for the Acolyte, I can understand because it kind of ended up with quite a couple like cliffhangers and things that should have needed season 2. The Acolyte became the center of a Star Wars culture war surrounding its casting, diversity, woke nature, and supposed writing flaws that broke canon, each episode bringing some new controversy. It was one of the most review-bombed series in probably Disney or Marvel history in Disney Plus, with an 18% audience score and a good, not great, 78% critic score. Though the anti-Acolyte crowd will no doubt celebrate this as some great victory, like Ewoks playing bongos and dead stormtrooper helmets, the reality here is that this show probably did not have a chance. It had a massive, stupidly massive reported $180 million budget for the 8-episode series, when at least that much money was in, no way ever seen on screen. And when you spend that much, you want some sort of huge viewership to match. I have some thoughts about this, which I will give after reading everything. The Acolyte did not have that. While there's no official data from Disney, estimates put its audience as smaller than every other Star Wars series and half of something like Ahsoka at best. Some would say that this is because the show is bad, but it had an absolutely mountain to climb, being a series set in the totally unexplored, in live action High Republic, which takes place centuries before the Skywalker Saga and seemingly had no connections to it. By the end, had a little. Again, this is something I also want to talk about in a second. It was creating an entirely original story with brand new characters and mere seconds of a few well-placed cameos from Yoda to Darth Plagueis by the final. It left many mysteries unsolved, including Plagueis' involvement in all this, the true nature of the split consciousness, twins, and further development of characters like Osha and the Stranger, which I fucking love to see, by the way. I think the Stranger was one of my favorite parts from Acolyte. The latter of which was easily the best thing about the series and one of the best new villains in Disney era. He'll probably never be seen again unless he and his castmates finish things up in some novel or comic. I could see that happening in theory. I don't think the Acolyte had a chance as soon as it spent that much money. A show with zero Star Wars icons or connection to the OG series should have never expected huge viewership, and also had viewership problems, but it was of course a straight line to Rogue One and A New Hope, and yes, it being a level of good past essentially anything else Disney had ever released, probably inspired at least a second concluding season. It's not anywhere close to Andor good. This fate was already written and it would have taken a miracle to avoid it. I will not miss the internet firestorm that occurred every week about the series, which made its good bits almost impossible to enjoy. But all this says to me is that Disney is going to experiment a lot less, when really the takeaway should be that they need to spend a lot less. I feel like this is mostly written from like a very opinionated person. Like there's not like just facts written, it's also what he's thinking about it. So basically, look, I'll start talking about a couple things from top to bottom. For me, this whole like woke thing, political agenda, whatever you want to call it, I usually don't follow it. I'm not as I don't see it myself as often. I try to not think about it as much. I usually get myself out of that whole reasoning. I also am just very like, I'm not even following politics and whatever, so I just don't know even what the message is supposed to be like. Call me ignorant, but so far it has worked in my favor to just not care, because it means that I just don't have any personal feelings before watching a certain show based on the characters that are portraying it, the storyline, the relationships, that sort of thing. I'm completely out of it. I don't care. Do what you do. I'm not going to let my opinions from real life apply to a show from a universe that doesn't exist because it's pure fiction. That I already want to put out of the window. So that's for this part. When it comes to the million budget, this is one of the things that bothered me before the show came out. As far as I recall, so again, I don't know the actual facts, but as far as I recall, this budget was mentioned before the series came out. And I feel like having the budget feel, because it honestly felt like it, feel like a reason for giving the audience an idea that this show is going to be massive, it doesn't work. You're talking about a very massive figure, 180 million. Those are big numbers, you know. And I feel like you kind of set yourself up for failure by mentioning such a huge budget, because people are going to expect way more than you might have thought. And I feel like this should have never been mentioned at all. I feel like this was also just the reason why people were just not going to like Acolyte, because mentioning the budget over any other qualities the show might have is a huge negative, at least for me. I feel like that's just not the way you should write things, and you should tell to the audience about the show. I feel like you need to give out more mentions and ideas of what in the show is going to happen, and we spent a great deal of time to get this and this sorted for the story, blah blah blah, that sort of thing. But just don't talk about budgets and how much it cost us to do this and that, because people are either not going to believe it, they're going to believe it and hype themselves up, and then left themselves for disappointment when the show actually comes out. I hope I got my opinions out there for some, because I do struggle sometimes. Okay, so this thing, right? An absolutely mountain to climb, being a series set in the totally unexplored High Republic, which takes place centuries before the Skywalker Saga, and seemingly had no connection to it. I don't know if it's based on the person that wrote this, but I hope to dare that Disney does not take this as information that they need to rather continue writing sagas regarding the Skywalkers over something completely different. I'm gonna be honest, I love the Skywalker Saga, especially for Anakin and Luke. If anything, I'm currently diving a lot of time of my own into Legends, and I'm currently almost finishing up the Throne trilogy. For the people that have been following me, you guys know I've been doing a review for the first 2 books, and I'm currently reading the 3rd one, so that one will also come at some point. But regarding of the whole Skywalker Saga, I'm kind of tired of it. And I feel like people should become tired of this. We don't always need to follow these heroes. I feel like that story has been done. It had a great ending. For me, it will always be Return of the Jedi, but I don't try and portray that opinion to the people, because I know some can be very sensitive about it, and that's completely fine, because everyone has their own version of Star Wars. Believe what you want to believe, as long as you enjoy it. Just don't put other people down because they don't have the same mentality as your own. But for me, at least, I feel like we should be done with the Skywalker Saga. It's been done. It's been beaten. Let's move on. You know, and I feel like for Disney themselves, they should keep doing that. No matter how badly received Acolyte has become, it shouldn't be a message for them to start portraying a ton of fan servicey, a ton of like Skywalkers and characters that we've already seen. As much as I liked Andor, it was very well written, I don't like Andor as much for the characters and the story within it. I just like the writing for the series. This writing, they could have done this with a complete different character in a complete different setting, and it would have most likely sold in the end. Sure, it won't be as big as Ahsoka and Anakin Skywalker and all these characters from the prequels and the original trilogy and the TV show, but we have to get it going. We have to move on. We can't just stay stuck with the same characters and the same setting. I'm sick and tired of seeing Galactic Empire, Clone Wars, and the New Resistance. I want to just go and do other stuff, delve into other stories, like just move a couple thousand years into the future after the Battle of Yavin. Think about something completely different. It doesn't even have to be the Old Republic. As much as I, for example, would like to see more Old Republic, make something new. For Legends, we've only been up until like 138 after the Battle of Yavin. We could have hundreds of years into the future with different characters, different creatures, different storylines. If it has the same sort of writing that we can expect from Andor with these other shows, it would have been much better. People would have talked about it more, and it would have created a more positive environment to a degree. Because again, you guys are Star Wars fans. I'm a Star Wars fan, but some people just love to hate everything. And I mean everything, because they'll probably even fucking hate the original movies. Like, it doesn't matter. They're a fan, but they hate everything. But I'm just trying to give an idea that I don't care if Acolyte has been bad. I just don't want this to be a reason for Disney to go, you know what? fuck it. No, we'll keep doing Skywalker Saga. We'll keep doing the sequels because these are the only things that are currently selling. And people badmouth it, yes, but we get money and we're able to, live our lives because we need income, blah, 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 that sort of thing. I don't want that. They need to explore more stuff. And the Acolyte was a great idea. The execution was just, in my opinion, horrendous. I watched it a couple of weeks after. I binged it, obviously, so I didn't have to suffer through the whole waiting a whole week. I didn't like it as much. I can understand some opinions about the show, but most of the time they get drowned out by people talking mostly about the woke stuff and broke canon and that sort of thing. And the whole broke canon as well is ridiculous, because if there's one thing that Star Wars has always been good at, it's breaking canon. It always happens. If anything, the Clone Wars absolutely broke a ton of canon within the Star Wars saga, and no one bats an eye. But now we're talking about the Acolyte and everyone's on their tails. Like, relax. Breaking canon always happens. We always have to headcanon ourselves a little bit just to figure out how it could make sense. That's just very normal. But yeah, these are my thoughts. I try to explain myself, even though I sometimes struggle with my English. I do apologize, but I do my best. Look, I'll be honest. For me, The Acolyte, it wasn't the best show I've ever seen. I'd probably still put it below Obi-Wan and the Book of Boba Fett, but even those shows I struggled with. It is just a typical series that was bad all around, but there was like 1 or 2 good episodes that, if they kept that same energy, it would have been absolutely perfect. That being said, I feel like this series could have definitely had some sort of redemption to viewers if it had a second season, because I feel like it should have been more fleshed out. I always saw The Acolyte as some sort of pilot series. I didn't expect anything too big about it because I knew it was going to be something completely different, and it just takes a long time to set up a story. The story doesn't get made within 20-30 minutes. It needs time, and I feel like season 1 set up a couple things, but it just needed more. Either more time within the episodes, or just obviously the season 2 to kind of expand on these characters and the story related to them. That's my opinion. Anyways, I'm going to leave it here. I'm going to thank you all for watching. It's been an absolute pleasure. Hope you guys had a great time. I'll see you all in the next video. Take care. Peace.